Hello, people. I need to do this, so hold on, because it is, hold on here. It is a beautiful day in Toronto, so I feel like I should do this. There we go. Thank you. Great, that looks good. Well, welcome to Biz Chats. Biz Chats is a digital program where I interview expert guests on a wide variety of business topics. Today I'm very excited to talk with Andrew Wall again. He actually has been an expert guest on our segment before, and he has a wealth of knowledge on a variety of business topics. Just to give you a little background on Andrew again. So Andrew is a professional, chartered professional accountant and a chartered management accountant with over 17 years in accounting and IT development. He is the founder of wallcpa.ca. Which is a cloud-based accounting firm focused on helping small businesses. WallCPA.ca has been recognized by Intuit Canada as a firm of the future, and they've also been featured on the website firmofthefuture.ca. Today I'm very excited to chat with him. We're going to be talking about building trust and how you can build a new culture in an established company. Most of our audience is either thinking of selling their business or franchise and or buying a business or franchise. So this is always an important topic and conversation on when you transition and when you buy that existing business and you enter into that established business and with an established culture, how do you go about that? And that's what we're going to be talking with Andrew today. So let me invite him in the conversation. I'm very excited to chat with him, and let me take my sunglasses off. And boom. It's just too nice of a weather not in Toronto not to have sunglasses. So let's invite Andrew here. Here we go. Add glasses on too. I don't know. Here we go. Hi, Andrew. Hey.
Hey, lost the AirPods again. They don't want to work for me on this, but I can hear you. At least it's better than last week. Trying to throw these guys away. And you're right. It's a beautiful weather here in Toronto today, isn't it? And I guess your future's so bright, Nunzio, you got to wear
Well, thank
shades,
you,
right?
thank you. Yeah, I know. We're just, everyone's just going absolutely crazy in Toronto because it was probably, correct me if I'm wrong, it was probably maybe 2.5 weeks ago where it was literally snowing. And now it's double digits and patio weather, so everyone's enjoying the sunshine finally. So,
Exactly. Although a few of us accountants are still struggling with those late filers, so and all the things we pushed off
Exactly.
from April until May. So we haven't been able to enjoy the patios as much as I'd like. Though I did get to the island this weekend, which was
very
nice.
nice. Well, I appreciate how busy you are, so I definitely, I'm definitely excited and appreciate the fact that you're taking out some time to chat with us again. I did let everyone know that you were a guest a while ago, and you have a wealth of knowledge on a variety of business topics. But today's topic, I feel, is extremely important. Especially for BizOn, we're helping people buy and sell established businesses every day. And this is an important topic when it comes to, okay, well, I'm going to buy an existing business or an established business, but I may have my own twist to how I operate and the culture I want to implement there. How's that going to work and how's that going to look? So I think without any more intros here, let's just get into the Q&A, and I'll start off with the first question. And what does culture mean to you?
Well, first of all, I think culture is the lifeblood of any organization, and it's sort of the personality of your business, so to speak. So what does what does the personality represent to your team, which I think is critical, but also what does that represent to ultimately your clients? And truly, in my opinion, the culture that you build within your team is what's going to be reflected on your clients. So the relationships that you build and cultivate internally is what is going to become your culture. I think it's very, very difficult to architect a culture, and really it has to be truly what you're about, and it starts at the top, right? What are you as a CEO or founder of an organization? what is your culture? What's important to you? And then surrounding yourself, obviously, with like-minded people, and that will organically build this culture and this vision that you have. And then that internally.
So sort of like your beliefs, your behaviors, as the as a leader, and how you want that to look across the organization. Got it. Okay. And
absolutely.
I guess you indirectly already answered it, but why is it so important? Why is culture so important?
Because I think, what's the expression out there that, culture eats business for breakfast, or whatever.
Culture eats business strategy for breakfast.
Culture eats business strategy for breakfast, and that's exactly it. I mean, you can have all these strategies in the world, and you can formulate this great vision for your organization, but if your culture doesn't support that, it's ultimately going to fail. And I think that as I said earlier, is that it really determines the success of your business is the culture. And obviously, being consistent, you can go out there and execute a marketing strategy that says you're this and you're that, but if your culture doesn't represent that and you don't come across as authentic, you've really wasted.
So examples, I guess, very well-known examples of that would be the Googles, or the who else does it pretty well? The Lululemons, the Starbucks, those sort of examples, right?
Absolutely, and it really has to be authentic. There's a lot of people out there supposing to be one way or the other, but as you dig in deeper, it's not really reflective. And I think that comes back to what we're also going to talk about today, which is trust, because trust comes from authenticity, and your culture needs to be authentic.
Now, when you're building that corporate culture in an established company, is that different than building a culture in a brand new business, or a business that you just started?
I think so, because I think when you build a culture in an established company, you're inheriting a culture. As I said, it's very difficult to change a culture. It's not impossible. I can tell you that has been what I have been doing here. At CPA for IT, which is the new organization. So many people out there know me as Wall CPA, and my acquisition is now under CPA for IT, which is a new brand for us. And that's bringing on a whole team member who comes with a very traditional culture. You can imagine that stereotypical accounting firm where everything was based on billable hours. It was a dictatorship. Do what you're told. Don't do what I do. Do what I say. That type of methodology. And my approach is very different. And what I can tell you is that when you're trying to change a culture, it requires a huge amount of trust, and it requires a huge amount of patience. There's a lot of people who told me, when I was first looking at making these changes, that you really need to fire people, and you need to make an example, and you need to call the people who don't fit in. And I bought into that prior to actually going.
I'm still here.
Okay, I apologize. A call came in.
No, you're still there.
Okay, good. I don't see myself, but it's still there. So a lot of people told me, you should, call people and pick the weakest link and fire them, make an example. I didn't go that route at all. I went the route of recognizing that my people are the most important part of my organization, and taking some of those people who were hard to transition to my beliefs and my strategies, and working closely with them, and creating special projects to get them on board with the strategy. And in many ways, some of those people who I had the most difficult time with at first have also become some of the biggest advocates for the new culture. And I think it really is important. It's difficult as a CEO to invest that time and to work with those people who are the troubled people, but it ultimately pays huge rewards and huge dividends. And I think it also then goes also to your culture, that you show that you're here. And for me, my culture was very much about my team is my family, right? Literally, like bringing the organization up to a family cottage. My team might be a dysfunctional family at times, but my team is my family, right? And if I was, you can't fire your family, right? Your family is your family for life, and they might make mistakes, and they might need help and coaching along the way of their life. And that's what we're here for as a team, is to help enable that and bring people who need that extra help and give them that extra help, which is, sometimes it's easier to just fire them. At least people, and I think that's a misconception. People think it's easier to fire them. But I can also tell you, hiring and firing is two of the most difficult things.
And I'm with you on that, because I think there's close ties between leadership skill and culture as well, because you're absolutely right. Anyone can make those, I guess, perceived easy decisions, right? But it takes time to actually cultivate and create a very powerful culture. Even if that means, trying to get some that aren't bought into it at the beginning to buy into it eventually, especially if they're a strong asset to the organization. Like you said, it's easier to just say, okay, buy. But I think if you have strong leadership, that ties in with a strong culture as well, right? So, no, that's great. So the next question here is, how does trust affect corporate culture?
I don't think you can build corporate culture without trust. It's a really easy answer. I mean, if even building it from the ground up, you have to have an inherent trust that the things that you're saying are consistent with the things that you're doing. So I think they're really truly intertwined.
Well, how do you build trust with your team? What are some examples?
Well, I think from everything from going up to the family retreat, and building bonds. We do things like we'll go out for dinners together as a group, and now that it went from something where this was something I was cultivating and organizing, where bring the whole organization up to the cottage, to the team wanting to actually get together and organize events as a group themselves. So we're going to be doing class during this month to pick up some pictures of people we like the least, and hopefully that won't be me, right? So I think those little things are important, but those are ultimately the little things. The big things are in how you communicate with your team, and making sure that is an open dialogue. Because again, for me, part of my culture is about accepting mistakes. Because in the old culture, things were very much about, if you made a mistake, you literally, we had a report of all the mistakes made, and you had to stand up in front of the organization and explain what your mistake was. Ultimately, that in and of itself, not horrible, but it's in the way it was approached. It was very much you've made a mistake, let's find out who did this, why. And it wasn't so much about why did this happen and how are we going to prevent this, as it was really making an example so that the person wouldn't make this mistake again. And so for us, it's changing to, it's perfectly okay to make a mistake, as long as you own the mistakes that you made. And because also what was happening as a result of that old culture is people were burying their mistakes. They were doing everything they could if they made a mistake.
They were scared.
Make sure no one found out about it.
Yeah.
They were scared. And I wanted people to know that, first of all, if you're not making mistakes, you're not taking risks to make the organization better. Secondly, if you do make a mistake, as long as you own it, we can fix it and we can get better. That's actually a positive, not a negative. So I want to reward and incentivize people for making mistakes. I don't want to reward and incentivize people for making the same mistake 3, 4, 5 times. But I want to encourage you, like, what mistakes have you done? And literally that is a part of my management report that I do in my yearly review. What mistakes have you done? So
you're embracing a culture that, you're creating a culture that embraces, taking risk and even if that means failing, but as long as you're learning and you're making the organization better for it, let's continue to push forward.
Absolutely. And for me, this is critical because technology is making such an impact on my industry, as it is in so many industries out there. But we need to be on top of what's going on with technology. And the only way we're on top of what's going on with technology is if we're playing around with it and we're testing it. And we've made mistakes. We're big into automation and CRMs and workflow automation, and we've had some hiccups where clients have gotten robocalls that they probably shouldn't have. we owned that. We recognized and we apologized, and our clients recognize that making a mistake is okay as long as you own it.
Accountability.
And
that's another key word for culture, right? So embracing risk and failure and learning, but also being accountable, right, for the actions, whether they're good or bad. I think that's powerful. Yeah.
Right. And I'm extremely fortunate in my life to have the people that I have in my life. And one of the most important people in my life is my mother. And my mother is actually has a PhD in change management. So I'm very fortunate in being able to have someone that I can go to as a trusted resource and ask for help and support and guidance on, how do I do this? How do I make these changes and these shifts? And she basically, it's hard to summarize her years of research and knowledge into a soundbite. But ultimately, she said it's coming back to how you engage and make them feel a part of this process that is ultimately going to be.
Yeah, it's so true. There was a story, actually, I'm going to butcher it, but I'm trying to put it together. And I think it was Mark Zuckerberg, I think, said this at one of his speeches, but it was a story about JFK, I believe, was at a facility and a janitor was cleaning up. And JFK said to the janitor, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And the janitor looked at him and said, "I'm putting a man on the moon." So everyone has a place, and they've bought into the culture or the vision or the plan. They're all in this together as an organization, and every single role is important for the main objective or goal, right, or whatnot. And I just thought that was so powerful, because any other person could have just said, "Oh, I'm cleaning up this shit," or "I'm sweeping up," or whatever. Yeah. But this guy was, "No, I have an important job here." Right, I'm part of this entire organization, this culture of putting this man on the moon, right? And I thought it was so powerful.
Yeah, and I think that was so rare back in that era, right? I mean, that was just unheard of back then, to have this idea of this culture and being part of something bigger, which clearly is we're seeing it a lot more in the startup community, right? I mean, people want, and particularly in the millennial generation, wanted to feel a part of something. So we're starting to see that more, which I think is great. I mean, I think that's how businesses succeed, is by having teamwork and everyone feeling they're committed to a goal, and that, what are you doing? Yeah. I'm not sweeping the floor.
Right.
That's awesome.
All right. So this is halfway. So I just want to remind everyone that we that this segment is sponsored by Wall CPA. So make sure to go check out their website, wallcpa.ca, and also, I guess, your new company there. What's the website link there?
So that would be cpa4it.ca, and in the near future, anyways, Wall CPA will effectively be becoming a personal brand site, and everything will be pushed to cpa4it.ca is the key. We're a Canadian organization.
Perfect. Yeah. So go check out that website too, everyone. And we're on the back 9 now. So next question here is, what are you doing to build your trust with your clients?
So I think this is really important. Is as much as building trust with your team is important, which ultimately then reflects on the end client, is what are you doing to build trust in your client base? And again, it's accountability, right? You gotta, if you're gonna make a mistake, you really
it's a big
have
keyword.
to own that mistake. Yeah, it is massive. And communication, because we're not perfect. We've made mistakes along the way. What was really interesting is one of our very first negative Google reviews that we had, which, I mean, we were dealing with a lot of clients across the board, right? 700 T2s a year. So mistakes do happen. We do our best to make everyone happy, but we're not perfect. And it was a big milestone for us this year that the client who gave us our very first negative review actually called us back and wanted to come back.
There you go.
Yeah, so that was a big sign that we're building this trust. And for us, a lot of that trust starts with our external communication and giving back to our community in various different ways. So obviously we've got a lot of content that we try and share on various different social media channels. Also, we work very closely with staffing agencies. So a lot of our referrals come through staffing agencies. So we're always looking at how do we give back and add value to them. So we look at what can we give you and demonstrate what our capabilities and our strengths are, and prove the value that we have, which helps to inherently build trust. So one of the things that's been large in the staffing industry around independent consultants is Bill 148, which most people know as a change around minimum wage. It was a change to Employment Standards Act, and the effects on the staffing agencies is that they had to prove now that anyone that they were hiring as an independent contractor was truly independent, not an employee, and there's a $50,000 penalty if they're misclassified. So we worked with industry organizations like NACCB, which is the National Association of Computer Consulting Businesses. We worked with lawyers like Weir Spold to develop a free survey that we provide to all the staffing agencies that allows independent contractors to complete this survey and get a completely free risk assessment that tells them how likely that they are to be
That's
assessed
awesome.
as an independent contractor. So I think that that's a lot for us about how we build trust is we go out and we engage with our communities and we provide value and demonstrate our capabilities.
I think that's so powerful because it's true. That's our approach at BizOn as well. We always want to make sure that we're building a strong and trusted brand. And I guess the foundation of that is constantly sending out content that we believe our audience values. Very insightful content. And one of our tools as well, similar to yours, is a lot of people are always thinking about how much their business could sell for. So we have a valuation tool where, we have all our algorithms and data in the back end, and it provides them with a quick free valuation of, hey, this is what you could potentially sell your business for. And doing these sort of things, like here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go, and minimizing, okay, give me. I think that approach does create trust and a strong brand, right? Like I get wowed all the time.
I agree with you.
What did I do? There's a small business, Hipster Laser, that wanted to meet. I actually went to business school with one of the founders, and they wanted to meet for breakfast and just chat and whatnot. And out of nowhere, at the end of the breakfast, he's like, "Oh, by the way, they basically laser cut anything in plastics and whatnot. Pretty cool stuff." But out of nowhere, he's like, "Oh, here's a green BizOn logo that I did. And don't worry about it. I just want you to have it." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's so nice. Thank you." And then he whipped out something else. Yeah. Like he made 3 free items for me. And it just got me thinking like, wow, like that's so genuine and so thoughtful. And 1, you got my trust. And 2, I'm talking about you right now. Right?
Because you want to reciprocate, organic, not out of and it has to be authentic. I mean, I had an example that was unfortunately the opposite of that. I got attracted by an ad, a social media ad, about this gym that was trying to, offer people to come in and get, 3 weeks free gym membership, and he was doing it because he wanted to build credibility for his gym. And it came across as really authentic and sincere. I'm like, oh wow, this is great. I've gained a few pounds over tax season. It's time for me to hit the gym. This seems like a really great organization. Sure. It's in the beaches. Let's check it out. And what's the first thing I did? I Googled, right? And I started reading all the Google reviews. And the Google reviews were saying this is basically it's a bunch of baloney. When you walk in there, they basically say, it's free, but don't you want to bet on yourself? And you got to bet on yourself and put money down, and then if you succeed and you accomplish your goals, we'll give you your money back. And sometimes they weren't giving the money back over things that it was like
credibility was gone.
That was it. It was done. Like, the thing is, I'm not averse to paying for a gym. I would have full on gone. Like they got my attention because they were giving something back, but they lost it the minute they weren't authentic.
Yeah. And that happens all the time too. I went to one of these expos where Tony Robbins was speaking. And so Tony Robbins, at the end of the day is a coach, is a business coach, right? But you had multiple business coaches before him, have this great presentation, whatnot, but at the end they lost. They always lose my trust because this is the typical pitch. Hey, my package is $3,000, but today, if you sign up with me right now, you get it for $699. And I'm like, ugh, like it just doesn't sit well. It doesn't, yeah.
It doesn't
but
sit
then
well.
Tony Robbins goes out there and yes, sure, he's at a higher level or he's well known and he's making money. But I guarantee you his approach was like this when he wasn't, right? Because he's genuine and authentic. And he said, listen, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to change your life. And he just did his thing. And at the end of it, I was like, holy moly. That guy is a powerful dude.
Yeah.
And that's, and that's it. And I guarantee you a lot more people want to go invest in his training programs more than the others. And sure, his name's one thing, but I also do believe he did a great job at building trust, right? So, no, that's good. All right, next question here, Andrew. So earlier this year, Edelman's released the 18th edition of the Trust Barometer report. In it, they discuss the dramatic drop in trust in media institutions and information on social networks, which is getting a ton of exposure. So how does that affect the way businesses should operate?
Yeah, well, I think fake news is an all-time high. Right? I mean, it's one of the hottest buzzwords, and it's reality. I mean, look at this example I talked about, this gym. That's a perfect example of what I would consider fake news. They sold one thing and they delivered another, just like, these business coaches at these Tony Robbins. They're selling you one thing, I'm here to change your life, but at the end, I really want something. So I think that in this era, authenticity. We have to really be authentic. And I think we also, as business owners, need to create a community and be able to demonstrate, that we are trustworthy and be able to point people in the direction of valid communication. I mean, the epidemic in fake news in the States is absolutely horrible, but Canada's not immune to it. What happened with our federal budget last year and earlier this year was fake news. There was a lot of misinformation that was out there, and it's important for business owners to speak up and to communicate what are the facts. And I think that is really important in an era where there's so much fake news out there that you really have to be an advocate for the truth, and you have to speak up and tell people when you see.
Got it. Now, what can a CEO do to address this decreasing trust that we're all facing and experiencing around the world? What can a CEO do to address that?
Keep talking and keep the dialogue going. As I was saying earlier, it's on them to create forms of communication in whatever medium that might be, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Twitter, to get that dialogue going, communicate facts, and that's the key, is to be able to point to where people can get information that they can trust. The one thing that's great about Canada is the CRA website, believe it or not, has a ton of very good information that we can trust. And that's the fact. And I think the key is making sure we're communicating facts to people.
So we all have to take accountability for it as individuals. That makes sense. All right, so I'm going to jump back to culture here. And I think you did touch on it, but I guess I just want like the honest truth. Do you think culture is hard to change? Like, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very, very difficult to change, but it doesn't mean it can't. I can tell you definitively, I've done it. And it is probably one of the most difficult jobs of a CEO, but also one of the most rewarding. Because when you can actually see it, like I said, when I see people coming back and who have embraced the culture and are putting it sometimes back in my own face when I'm not living up to the culture, right? there's nothing more rewarding than that. So I think that it's very, very hard, but it's very, very possible.
Okay, now a side
very
note, just for Bizon's audience here, they're out there searching to buy an existing business, and obviously they're looking at their checklist, like, oh, is it self-sufficient? Are the financials great? Is it in a good industry? Is it growing? Da, 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 da. Should culture be a checkbox? And if culture is deeply ingrained and they truly believe it would be difficult to change, is that I don't know, I don't think I'm going to buy this business? Okay.
Potentially. It's certainly a discount on the valuation to me, if nothing else. It might still be a great opportunity. It's a tick box, like you said. Sometimes all the tick boxes are ticks, sometimes they're not. It could still be a great opportunity. It just might mean that you're going to have to invest a hell of a lot more time and money to bring it to the culture that you want. And sometimes it's a worthwhile investment, and sometimes it's enough to say no.
Last question here. So what are steps to change or build a new culture for an existing or an established company? Now, if say that potential buyer there says, you know what, I am going to invest. This is a great opportunity. The culture is, but I am going to invest that time to try and change or build a new culture. What are some simple steps? Like, where would they start?
Well, they start with defining what it is. Like, you have to know what you want your culture to be. It has to be well thought out. I say you can't architect culture, but you have to have a plan and you have to have a vision for what you want it to be. And then you have to start working at it iteratively and start building upon success, and recognize that it might shift away from what your vision was, but you have to have a vision of what you want it to be, and you have to just keep driving that nail in. It's not going to go in with one hit.
It's a consistent effort.
Tapping away.
Yeah.
Consistent effort. And like, consistency is key, but also, like I said, that vision, you really have to stay consistent to your vision, and do your best. Like I said, you might have some divergences, and as long as it's not material, that's okay. As long as it stays generally consistent with your vision, you're okay. But you also have to be conscious when attitudes or behavior is taking a tangent completely, and you need to address it. And I think that's one of the things is how you address it, because it's going to happen. You're going to have people doing things that aren't consistent with what you want. You can't ignore it. You have to address it. But how you address it is what's going to determine ultimately the trust that the team members have in you, and then whether the culture will truly be able to
love it. Thank you so much, Andrew. I know like I said, you were an expert guest on a segment before, so we did that whole rapid fire thing. So I thought instead of a rapid fire, I just basically ask you one question, and I think you kind of answered it, but you could drive.
Sure.
Yeah. I think you answered a little bit, but you could dive into it a little bit deeper if you want. But what's new and exciting on your plate other than tax season?
Well, yeah, we've got lots of new and exciting things. So we've got on an influencer list, which is going to be released today, updated today. So hopefully I remain in the top 10 accounting influencers, which is a big one for us. I've been recognized as one of the top 21 bookkeeping influencers in Canada, and I'm on the short list for the top 10, which will be announced at the end of May, which is exciting. I'll be out at a conference at the end of May in Calgary, Get Connected, which will be a big one for me. I've got a conference next week in Niagara Falls within the staffing agency, which should be fun. And then we've also got next week as well QBHQ, which is an apps roadshow for accountants, bookkeepers, and small business owners to learn about all the great new technology. As always, technology is constantly evolving. Had some great conversations in the last month with a couple new app partners, and looking at some really exciting stuff. I'm working on something. This is going to be just a little bit of a so I've got a new website, just got the website today, justusleague.ca. So yeah, it's you know, we all need our heroes, and we need a team to work together to help us succeed, particularly in the accounting world where there's so much transition going on. I'm trying to bring together a group of thought leaders to be able to provide help and support for those people who want to make the transition. So you're going to have to wait to see what that's all about. But Justice League,
you know
is
what?
coming to
You're
help
definitely
out.
building a culture of getting things done and being active. So good for you. I'm excited to have you on my side. I'm excited to continue to nurture our relationship. Once again, this has just been, you know, a wave of knowledge coming out your end there. So appreciate taking the time with us. Everyone listening in live or on demand, this is recorded, so we're gonna upload it to our YouTube channel so you can watch it. And my plug, yeah.
And
LinkedIn, I
too,
am
right?
going to try that. Yes, I'm going to upload it to LinkedIn as well, everyone. Thank you, Andrew. And my plug as usual, if you're interested in buying or selling a business or franchise, check out mybizon.com. And everyone in Toronto, enjoy the weather. Everyone everywhere else, have a great week, and we'll chat soon. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, bye.
Bye.